The impact of climate change in the Global South. Let us start this subtopic with a series of infographics. First, we identify who is at risk of climate change. Basically, everyone living everywhere is at risk, but most especially those living in poverty, as well as women, children, and the elderly are at risk of climate change. Also at risk are outdoor workers and the people living with chronic medical conditions. Moreover, children are the most vulnerable due to long exposure to environmental risks. Another set of people at risk are those living in megacities, small island developing states, and other coastal and mountainous and polar regions. Those living in countries with weak health systems will be least able to prepare and respond. Whether you live in a rural village, small island or coastal town, or big city, climate change threatens your health. Drought, floods, and heat waves will increase. Vector-borne diseases like malaria and dengue virus will increase with more humidity, and basic necessities will be disrupted. Hunger and famine will increase as food production is destabilized by drought. Air pollution and pollen seasons will increase, leading to more allergies and asthma, and warmer waters and flooding will increase exposures to diseases in drinking and recreational waters. Between 2030 and 2050, climate change is expected to cause 250,000 additional deaths per year due to malaria, malnutrition, diarrhea, and heat stress. What can we do about climate change? We can do a lot to protect ourselves, our families, and future generations. Our transport systems are inefficient, polluting and driving CO2 into the atmosphere, which directly harms the environment and our health. The same can be said of our energy and food systems. The livestock sector is responsible for significant greenhouse emissions. We can have the solution of sustainable transport, wherein instead we should walk, cycle, and use public transit. This will clean the air, increase physical activity, and reduce additional diseases like obesity. There is also clean energy, where cleaner, more efficient energy choices will go a long way to reducing emissions. Another thing we can do is produce sustainable food systems and healthy diets, wherein cutting down on red and processed meats and increasing fruits and vegetable intake in high-consuming populations will reduce emissions and diseases like cancer and heart disease. Africa, Latin America and the Caribbean, Pacific Islands, developing countries in Asia, and the Middle East make up the Global South. In a Socialist Worker report in 2021, contributors note that people from the Global South will eventually be forced to leave their homes, since it's been predicted that by 2050, many parts of Asia will suffer from extreme climate change, such as life-threatening rainfall, hurricanes, and heat waves. Reporters from Asia and Africa discuss how those who have least contributed to this ongoing problem are already paying the price. Farmers in Africa report grave weather oscillations. Activist Walden Bello accounts that there have been terrifying disasters mainly caused by climate change, such as the Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines in 2013, which damaged homes and livelihood and took over 6,000 lives. Sea level change, submerging island countries, and desertification are among many of the impacts of climate change in the global south. Meanwhile, in the Pacific Islands, being known for having the ocean as vast primary resource for economic growth and stability, as well as a cultural heritage, are suffering from the impacts of climate change as it poses a threat to the way of life such as fishing, transportation, and tourism. Climate change will also worsen other challenges already present in the region. In 2015, 30 national climate change and health action plans were developed for Pacific Island countries in collaboration with WHO. WHO estimated that in 2015, only 31% of the population in the Pacific, and this includes Papua New Guinea, had access to sanitation, and about 52% had access to improved drinking water sources. Pacific countries' achievement for Sustainable Development Goal targets for WASH is still a challenge. In Fiji, about 40% of the workforce is working in the informal sector, especially in agriculture and fisheries, and similar situation is present in other Pacific countries. In Asia, the majority of the climate change hazards are related to water. It has changed the patterns of rainfall. Climate models indicate that rising temperatures will increase heavy rainfall during the rainy seasons and extend the dry durations during dry seasons. These changes will, in turn, shift seasonal water availability and increase floods and droughts. Between 1970 and 1980, the overall number of flood occurrences in Asia grew from 303 to 1,541 between 2011 and 2020. The increase of heavy rainstorms with surface runoff, which is a main source of water pollution, which in turn has become tremendously dangerous for the people living in the region. This issue makes it difficult for people to access clean drinking water and sanitation.